Kenvians, and welcome to episode 2 of Discovering Classic Doctor Who. And in the last episode we watched An Unearthly Child and the beginning, again the non-pilot beginning, of the classic era of Doctor Who, the original era of Doctor Who. And today I'm going to be watching The Cave of Skulls. And, I mean, this is completely blind territory for me, obviously, because with the previous one I had the pilot to compare it to, but this time, you know, it's The Cave of Skulls. No clue what's going to happen here. So, let's get right into it and begin The Cave of Skulls and see what the heck's gonna happen. And, go. Okay. He was really rubbing that bone.
I never saw him.
What concrete evidence would satisfy you? Just open the doors, Dr. Foreman. Eh? Doctor Who? What are you talking about? Yes, I know.
And remember the difference between the outside of the police.
There's still a police box. Why hasn't it changed? Dear, dear. How very disturbing.
Oh, is this the first time where they realize it doesn't change?
Finding ourselves here. Even some of the things Dr. Foreman said.
That's not his name. Who is he? Doctor Who?
Doctor Who?
Perhaps if we knew his name, we might have a clue to...
Well, maybe you saw something and went off to investigate.
Yes, that's why he yelled out.
Doing this
Well, what?
to make fire come from his fingers. I have seen it. Inside, he's full of fire.
What?
The smoke comes from his mouth.
Oh, he was smoking a pipe. Okay.
Talk like his father, the fire maker. Tsar doesn't want to see fire made. But I, Carol, am not afraid of fire. I will make my creature make fire.
Okay, I'm sick of these people. Seriously.
Tell me the secret. I can make fire for you. Good to have someone to laugh at.
Heck yes, Susan! Wow.
I was a great leader of many men.
I don't care.
Yes. They all do that. They're all the same. They've been split open.
Oh. Okay. Not even a fade to black or a subtle slowdown. It's just they were split open. Okay. Alrighty then. Okay. I don't really think there's a need for a break this time. Let's just get right into the review portion of the video. And yeah, let's talk about some of my favorite parts of this episode. Starting with, and I know I'm 5 years old, rubbing the bone! I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But seriously, that scene was hilarious. I know, or I assume it's meant to be taken seriously, and like, you know, we're supposed to get the struggle that this guy is going through, and we're supposed to maybe get this emotional attachment. But I found this scene as a whole hilarious, especially when he's just rubbing the bone. And then he's just like, ah! 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 It's just... I mean, how can you not laugh at that? Seriously. Again, I know it was a different point in time, and maybe back then that would have been taken more seriously. Maybe that was taken more seriously back in the day. But oh my god, I just... I just can't. I can't. It's hilarious, and again, just my favorite, my first favorite part of this episode. My next favorite part of the episode was that seemingly this was the first time that the Doctor and Susan noticed that the cloaking device on the TARDIS isn't changing it. So this is when, all the way back then, that the cloaking mechanism was locked, or locked as the police box. So yeah, I for some reason I thought maybe that was just something that happened a long ways back, like before the show actually started. But no, it's apparently just something that happened at this point in time, and I love the fact that it was established here, really. So I'm literally learning the history of Doctor Who as I go along here, which is awesome. My next favorite part of the episode was the fact that the Doctor panicked, which was a huge contrast to how he was in the previous episode. Just very, again, like I said before, is like he's the smartest person in the room. He is thinking several steps ahead the whole time. But when he regains consciousness in the caves, and he's surrounded by these people, like, there was legitimate panic on his face. Like, he very well thought he was going to die on more than one occasion during that short span of time. So yeah, I love the fact that they, again, in the span of these two episodes, were able to portray the Doctor's confidence, but also the Doctor's mortality. The fact that the Doctor is afraid of dying. And obviously this is before they had the idea of regeneration. So yeah, I really like the way they did that. Now my next and final favorite part of this episode is once again Susan. Now I will say, when they found the Doctor missing and Susan was freaking out there at the early part of the episode, I admittedly did find that kind of annoying. I think it was a screeching and the, at least from my perspective, kind of over-exaggerating of the hysterics. But that's just from my perspective. That aside though, especially when Susan comes into the cave and just jumps onto that one caveman who's threatening to kill the Doctor, that was pretty awesome, I have to say. Again, it was very short-lived and they get overpowered by the caveman, obviously. But just that one scene, it's like, "Grandfather!" and she just jumps up on the guy. That was awesome. That was freaking awesome. Well, that's all I have for my favorites. Going into annoyances, and I really only have one, but it's a big one as far as this episode goes. The cavemen. I feel like way too much time was dedicated to just the cavemen. Way too much time was dedicated to hearing about the politics of these cavemen and the Doctor being unconscious for a good portion of that till near the end. And then we just don't see Ian, Barbara, or Susan for a large portion of that. It's just focusing on these cavemen and they need fire, and constantly saying Zah, 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 Lord Zod, Kel, Zod, Kel, Zod. It's a Superman origin story. But seriously, just, I'm sick and tired of the cavemen already. I assume they're going to be around for the next two episodes of this first series, or serial of Doctor Who, but dear God, I'm sick of the cavemen already. I hope that they are pushed more into the background in this next episode coming up, because I feel like if they're a prominent, or, well, there'll probably be at least a significant factor of the next few episodes, but if they are the focus for a lot of it, like they were in this episode, these next few episodes are going to drive me crazy. And again, this early in a show, like, you know, a show that I know I love, as far as the modern era goes, I worry that the story writing in the beginning, again, if this is the way they're doing it, is going to sort of push me away or make me not as interested to keep going. But that aside, my annoyances aside, moving on from there, I actually do have a question for this episode, and maybe you can call it a theory even, but in the previous episode, Ian got electrocuted when he touched the console of the TARDIS. And then they took off into, you know, space and time. What if Ian is the one responsible for locking the cloaking? Or locking it into the form of a police box? I'm not sure if that's ever addressed. I'm not sure if it ever will be. I would assume I'm not the first person to sort of theorize that, but could that be the case, that Ian is the one actually responsible for locking the TARDIS into the form of a police box? Yeah. I'm legitimately interested to know whether or not that's ever addressed. But, okay, moving on from there. Track of the episode? The intro theme again, I guess. Because, like, the shock music and the dramatic stings are so cheesy. They just... I mean, I know it's one of those things with, like, you know, classic shows back in the 50s and 60s, but it struck me as funny. It's not something I can take seriously, so they're definitely not going to be a favorite aspect of the show, unless it's a dramatic chipmunk turning around. Dun dun dun. Anyway, a quote of the episode. Definitely not anything that the caveman said, but when Ian refers to the Doctor as actually I forget the last name, but refers to him as Doctor, last name that starts with F. The Doctor says, Doctor Who? Or Doctor Who? What are you talking about? And, like, that was the first... Actually, they may have actually said Doctor Who in the first episode. I don't recall exactly. But just with the Doctor there saying it himself, I love the fact that Hartnell was the one that got to say that. I think for the first time, unless I'm completely wrong, which I could be. But yeah, that's my quote of the episode for sure. Now, as for my overall thoughts on this episode, the humor I found in it aside, I really didn't care for it. Way too much time was dedicated to those cavemen. Not enough time with the core characters, Susan, Ian, Barbara, the Doctor. And yeah, it's just so much time was dedicated to those cavemen, and I'm sick of them already on the first episode where they actually appear, which is not a good thing. And then also just kind of the way the episode ended. Like, at the end of the first episode, it's like we have this slow, dramatic pan of the shadow going up, and then the music starts. But in this, it's like Ian just says, like, they were split open, and either while he's saying it or immediately after he said it, the credit music starts rolling, and it just felt incredibly awkward to me. So yeah, there's just a lot of things about this episode I don't really care for. The good things were there, but they were minor in comparison to the issues I have. And one of my favorite parts was actually technically part of the issues, because although I found it hilarious, they focused on the cavemen too long. So yeah, unfortunately did not care for this episode, but there are more to come, and hopefully they will change my mind. And speaking of the next episode, the next one I will be watching is The Forest of Fear. And hopefully, yeah, it makes up for this second episode. Before I close, everyone, I do want to say thank you all so much for watching this with me, for coming and checking out Discovering Classic Doctor Who. If you like what you're seeing and you're new here, please do subscribe. Otherwise, as always, please do give this thumbs up and share this video if you think others will like it. That will definitely help spread the word and help out the channel a lot. And if you would like to see episodes like this and others in the classic Doctor Who era as they come out, in addition to other videos I do on this channel ahead of time, anywhere from a day to a few weeks ahead of time, you can go over to the Patreon account for PapaKennMedia in the description down below, or there's a link in the description down below, and there will also be a link at the end of this video. And for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to all of the videos as soon as they're uploaded, and yeah, and possibly some other things if you go up from there, but that's the main draw, hopefully. So if you're interested in that at all, please do go check it out. And that's all I have to say about this episode for now. This was the Cave of Skulls. It was unfortunately underwhelming, but I'm still looking forward to the next episode and keeping my fingers crossed that it will make up for the shortfallings of this one. So until next time, everyone, I am Papa Kenn, and I will see you in the next episode of Discovering Classic Doctor Who. Allons-y!